G'day folks, welcome to another episode of Stuff and Such. Today we're back here with the rebuild. Solved the issue. It was kind of a stupid issue that I made a bonehead mistake on. What had happened is between the carburetor and the intake block, I put the wrong gasket in. So what it was doing was only covering half of the transfer port for the impulse to the carburetor, so it was only sort of running on half capacity. So once I realized I had made that error, I changed that and it works good. This video I'm going to fire it up and kind of do a little bit of a tune on it and try and give you a bit of a demonstration on how and what you want to listen for. So I guess it'll be kind of a carburetor tuning video. You have to forgive my sniffle, she's kind of chilly out here, so here we go. Well, folks, so there she be. She's cutting real good, actually. Lots of power, screaming nice. You might have picked up on the video. There's a little issue, and it's not too prevalent right now, but it might get to be prevalent in the future. And I'll try and show some footage here. You'll see that when you hit the throttle, she starts to bark blue smoke, which is overfueling. And then you hold that for a second, and then she starts to climb the RPMs, and then she just screams. Now, what the issue actually is that something in the fueling supply system has a limitation on how much fuel it'll provide. I had first thought it was the tank vent, and I'll show a piece of video here where I flipped it over on its side and cracked open the gas cap, and when you do that you release the vacuum in the tank, and if it acts different, like if it goes from high RPM to just falling on its face from flooding, that's usually a good sign that your tank vent is plugged. So that didn't really happen. And you can notice as I ran through a few tests there, I richened the high jet right out, and you'll see that period of time lengthened on the blue smoke before it cleared up and started screaming. And basically what's happening is that the amount of fuel that is providing the carburetor or to the cylinder, I'm not sure what's the limiting factor, whether it be a fuel filter or a collapsed fuel line or possibly some of the jet holes are just too small for this saw. I don't know. So what happens is when it's screaming at the high RPM, it's almost perfect, but just a touch lean, is that its limiting factor is how much fuel it gets. So you're really not controlling it with the jets at all on the high speed. It just so happens that it's the right fuel mixture, or almost the right fuel mixture, which is kind of amazing. I don't know if that's very clear or not, but so overall it runs fine. It's got nice compression. I'm kind of actually fairly impressed with the Highway Taiwan cylinder and piston kits. Like on the drop test, you can see it's really nice and slow. You can just feel it's got some oomph to it. So that's good, and you can tell how it's just screaming there that it actually has decent porting in it too, which is nice. And you can see by the noodles of shavings it would throw, it's got also a good performance. Some of the other knockoff brands that are really dirt cheap you see for sale, they're really quite lazy. Like a 272 might, in my opinion, perform as a 61, if that. They're just kind of really lazy, plus the compression's really low on them. The low speed is set perfect. You'll see in a section of video that I'll put up now that when you want to warm up your saw first, and then what you want to do is you want to come out of a cut and then just set your saw down for 10 seconds or so, or maybe even a bit more. And what you want to check is just to make sure that it doesn't fatten up, meaning that if it's just a bit on the rich side, it'll start to accumulate unburnt fuel on the piston and on the spark plug, and what that'll do is that over those 10 seconds, it'll just start to slow down and start choking harder, and basically it just gets the fuel to air ratio accumulates to the point it just sits and dies, which is annoying. So what you need to do is find that sweet spot between lean and rich enough mixture, and also incorporate your throttle in there also. So usually what I do, when I start tuning from scratch, I open up my throttle plate reasonably good, so it's not really much of a factor. And then what I'll do is I'll turn out the low speed screw until it gets to a point where you start to see it puffing blue smoke, and then you screw it back in, and you'll kind of find the spot where it starts to lean out. You'll hear it start to scream like high RPMs, and then it'll die. So you want to, when you start hearing that, you want to kind of find in between that section, and then from there you want to back off your throttle a little bit. It's kind of a little bit of on this model of saw anyway, it's a little bit tricky. You want it to run almost as rich as possible on the low speed. So one, your starting ability is easier. So when you're starting and you want that richer mixture, that it's more readily available. So what I tend to do is I tend to throttle back a bit with my richness. So I'll open my throttle plate up a bit, and then I'll open up my rich jet a little bit, or I'll turn it out rather. I'll richen it out on my low speed, and that'll drop the RPMs back down. So that way I can find a good happy medium. That way it'll start easier and idle when it's warming up. And also with these models of saws, they're known for vapor locking in the hot of summer. So if you're cutting lots of wood real hard in the hot summer, you'll start to, and then what you do is you shut your saw off, and then it won't start again because your carburetor is so hot that it's evaporating, or it's vaporizing your gasoline. So then it can't pump it, and it'll just kind of have a little bit of a start and failure, and it's really annoying. You can't start your saw basically. So what happens when you richen up your fuel mixture on your lean a bit is you can kind of cool your saw down a bit with fuel on the inside. So what you do is you just, before you shut it off, you set her down for 10 seconds or so, and that lets the fuel on the inside kind of cool your cylinder, cool your carburetor and your piston cylinder, and also you let the air on the outside travel through your fins, and that way it just gives that moment of rest where it can cool it down a little bit, and it usually helps. So unfortunately I'm not really able to give you a great detail on this saw, how to turn a carb. I'll do another video on a different saw. I'll probably change the fuel filter on this one for the first thing I do and see if that makes any difference. But overall it's working fine. I wouldn't sell it like this because I know issues like that typically don't just go away. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you appreciated following along with this rebuild video, this rebuild series rather, and hopefully it inspired you to get out and build your own saw. And we'll catch you in the next one, guys. Take care.